What is up, guys? We're back in another video, and for today, I wanted to talk about Iron Fist, specifically something that's been on my mind for quite a while. Now, if you don't know me, I've been maining Iron Fist in top 500 since Season 0, so I've been playing him the full mile since Season 0. I've been through all of his changes, and I've been very vocal against a lot of the changes towards Tank Buster Iron Fist. Now, I've seen a lot of frustration, okay, in the Iron Fist community this season specifically. Now that Iron Fist is like a solidified tank buster, there's a lot of like, okay, if you want him to be a tank buster, buff him here, buff him there. Can we please get Season 0 back? All this stuff. And I really want to talk about this in terms of what would actually happen if we did that and why it's not as simple as doing that. Because everyone talks about like he would just be more fun and that's it. And it's like just the better answer. Like bring back Season 0 Iron Fist. But I've been thinking about it for a while and there's a lot of complications to it. Number one, if you have played Iron Fist in the earlier seasons, you know, or you should know at least, what was his infamous name? What was he known for? Even in tier lists, he had his own rank. He was called a pub stomper. He was exceptionally good in low elo, and he was horrendous in higher elo, like unplayable. So hard to rank up. It was infamous for this. Everyone talked about this. It was like an infamous problem, and people talked about how to solve it. No one really knew how to solve it, right? And so he was really oppressive, and this makes sense because in my guides for like this season and stuff, I tell people when you're in lower ranks, diving on an Iron Fist is still pretty good. I tell people as you go up the ranks, you want to dive less. In my one above all lobbies, I only dive about 5% of the time, but my brawling and frontlining is like 95%. However, whenever there's a rank reset and I get played with a lot of low rank players, or if I'm late to new season to ranking up or I'm slow, lots of times in the early seasons I get a lot of low lobbies, right? I dive and it works so well because supports just aren't that good. You just destroy them. There's so many ways to get so much value. And that's why like Season 0 Iron Fist was so oppressive in lower ranks. Very oppressive because he would just dive the back line, just do his combo and kill them, and people wouldn't have enough time to react and blah, 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 blah. Versus on heroes like Black Panther or Psylocke, people weren't as good to match the rank. On Iron Fist, it's a lot easier to just dive a support, do your left-click combo into a kick, and you land the kill. Right? It's all you need is like 2 seconds of the other support not looking at you. Because remember, guys, right? In Season 0, what was the difference between Season 0 Iron Fist and Iron Fist now, right? He had about 40% more damage to squishies than he did now. Just imagine how insane that is. 40% more, right? His damage to tanks was probably about 20% less, maybe 25%. But he had about 40% more damage to squishies. He had 50 less health, so he was more of a glass cannon. But your meditate brought you to 300, and it was non-expiring health. So you would go into a dive with 300 health. You wouldn't get the 400 overhealth from your meditate, yes, but that does decay. You had a higher max block value, and you also had a higher block conversion. So it almost kind of equalizes a little bit, but because you also had the wind tech where you could fly with your flurry punches, right? So you had a lot. You had a lot of utility. If you were to take Season 0 Iron Fist, right, when people were bad at Iron Fist, when I look at my older videos on Iron Fist, I'm like, damn, that I was Eternity Iron Fist, and that's how I played? Like, and then I look at now how an Eternity Iron Fist plays, right? It's way, way different. It's way better. And so if you take Season 0 Iron Fist and you put him in Season 5, he will absolutely murder low elo. Like, it won't even be fair. He will be disgusting. That's what I honestly think. Making him a tank buster, as much as I don't like to admit it, and this is actually a realization I just had the other day. I was just thinking, I'm like, wait, they actually solved it. They did. Iron Fist is now good in higher elo because you don't dive. And he's still pretty good in low elo because you just dive more. Right? Now, you can talk about, oh, you know, he needs a little bit of a buff. Like, maybe you think he needs a little bit of a buff, like 1.5 back, right? But that's kind of besides the point right now. I'm talking about Tank Buster, like, reworked Iron Fist versus a Dive Fist, right? I'm not talking about whether he's currently as strong as he should be. Like, maybe he could use a little buff, blah, blah, blah. Maybe you think he needs a lower cooldown on his kick, maybe a little bit more health. Whatever you think he needs, that's besides the point right now. The point is him being a Tank Buster it did kind of solve that problem. Like, now on higher elo, I just don't have to die, because he was really bad on high elo because supports were competent. His damage output wasn't fast enough, and his toolkit wasn't strong enough to be a competitive diver on the really high elo, which is why in One Above All, he was just so useless. You dive and you do nothing. They would just turn and heal each other. But now I get so much value punching tanks, I don't really dive. What do? I contest off angles, and I stay on tanks, and I hold the front line, and I peel. I contest off angles, and I attack tanks. Rarely am I diving, only if they have a very diveable backline, and my team is already really strong in my backline. Then I might consider diving, but even then, your value isn't really there. But when I'm in lower ranks, I dive a lot, and I still get good value, but not oppressive value. And I think that's the key difference between this Iron Fist and Season 0. And so, although my personal preference is I loved the magic of Dive Fist. It felt more fun to kill squishies. It did. It felt more fun to kill squishies. Truthfully, it's a better solution for the game as a whole for Iron Fist to be what he is now. Because I can play him better in higher elo, although it might not be as fun. I can play him better in higher elo. And he's also not a noob stomper, a pub stomper in low elo, where he just is the menace of backlines. Everyone hates him. He now has some good things he brings to his team. People are like, happy you have an Iron Fist. You could peel the Venom because of your tank shredding. You're pretty good at peeling that. Now, again, you're also less good at peeling divers, so it is a trade-off. You're less good at peeling divers because of your lack of squishy damage. But overall, it creates this paradox of how do we make diving more viable while at the same time not being oppressive in lower elo. And maybe the solution is we don't bring back Dive Fist. Like I talked about before, when I saw this Luna team up, I was so disappointed that we got a freaking heal. Okay, a freaking heal. It was pretty disgusting. I was extremely disappointed. One thing I was most looking forward to was ice punches. If you go back to my reaction, right when I saw the team up, I'm like, ice punches, ice punches, ice punches. And then a freaking heal comes up. A freaking heal. A heal of all things. A heal? Really? A heal that makes diving useless? Like, it shows around you where you are. It was so bad. It was so bad. Deep down in my heart, what we all wanted was something that made his kit more engaging. Just think about how much more fun, right? Think about how much less we would be complaining and how much more fun Iron Fist would be if he had ice punches. Let's say it's a 30-second cooldown. You press C, and what it does is your next flurry punch does like 10% more damage and slows the target. Slows the target you're hitting. One target, maybe two. Maybe whoever you're hitting, it slows them, right? Not broken. Once every 30 seconds. 10%, maybe 5%. The damage isn't that important to me. 5 to 10% more damage. It could be 5% and just put a slow on the target. That could be really engaging and useful because now when you're peeling a dive tank, you're like, okay, do I use it on the dive tank? It creates more variation around Brawler Fist. I think Brawler Fist is just too... It's not as engaging as it should be. It's not as engaging, right? Dive Fist was so much more engaging. And I think a great solution for Iron Fist might not be bringing back Dive Fist, but making Brawl and Frontline Fist more engaging. It's just not as fun W-keying into a tank as it is navigating around your routes in the backline and trying to survive and like playing like a ninja. It's a lot more engaging to do that. Like, frontlining is still a little bit engaging. It's not that boring, but just sometimes W-keying into a tank and just, that's it. Sometimes it's just not as fun. And I think there's so much they could do. Like, they could give a new mechanic. How about this? A new mechanic on your block, right? You block, and guess what? When you block, based off the amount of overshields you get from the block, it can convert into more damage, right? Like maybe if you get max 500 or 475 overhealth, you do 15% more damage just for that flurry punch. There's so many unique things they could do to make Brawl Fist more engaging to where we don't want Dive Fist back or we don't crave it as much, because I think Frontline Fist is just... It's a little bit underwhelming for a lot of people. But yeah, guys, that's what I really wanted to talk about. I think it's something that I've just been thinking about recently, and the community hasn't talked about it enough. It's about how bringing back Dive Fist the way he was in Season 0, I don't think it's really feasible anymore. With the way the game is now, it's just not feasible anymore. Not only that, but Iron Fist wouldn't really fit into the roster and the current meta and like the way the roles or everything. It wouldn't really fit in well either. I think Iron Fist being what he is okay for the game, and it's probably better for the game. I just think they need to do something to make it more engaging. It's just sometimes a little bit boring, and sometimes you don't feel as satisfied. I just think that's what we need. We need a new team up. Get rid of this damn heal and give us a new team up that makes it a little bit more interesting. Because the heal's kind of useless too, if I'm being honest. It really is. It's pretty freaking useless. Give me an ice punch. Give me ice punches, please. I want those ice punches, please, Netties. Please and thank you. Anyways, guys, if you enjoyed this video, please remember to like, subscribe, comment, and turn the bell for notifications so you can see when these videos are. And as always, guys, check out the Discord as well and the Twitch. I live stream there. And as always, guys, take care.